I like to think that I have a nice life, live a nice life. I own a cozy 3-bedroom home in a quiet neighborhood in the suburbs. I have a wife I care about deeply and a 9-year-old son who is my world. I enjoy my job as an accountant and I'm well organized in the community. I could confidently say I greatly enjoy living and appreciate all that I have earned. I only wish my entire life had been like this. You see, throughout my teens and early adulthood, I suffer from a severe anxiety issues stemming from an experience in my youth, one that nearly ruined my life. I had done something that haunted me for nearly 15 years. It was only after 3 different psychiatrists and many sleepless nights that I was able to forgive myself and learn to live again. Fortunately, my memories of those days are cloudy, and the scars have long healed. I will now try my best to recollect the events that unfolded of the summer of 1978 as best as I can. My memory is a bit faded, but I instinctively remember various things in my childhood. I remember playing a little league baseball, drawing my favorite superheroes to hang on my wall, going on bike rides to the corner store to buy candy and baseball cards, and staying out late on summer nights to play jailbreak with my neighborhood friends. In addition to all those things, I was also the first Boy Scout. I remember going to the elementary school auditorium every Wednesday after school dressed in my uniform. In a troop about 15 kids my age, I learned all kinds of things from fire safety to wildlife preservation. As a kid who grew up miles away from any forests, the lessons seemed incredibly abstract, yet entirely fascinating. I had never been camping before in my life, and the picture of these lessons painted appealed to me greatly. Needless to say, after hearing about that in years of 2-week-long summer retreat, I was determined to attend. My parents were quite protective over me, they still are, and were a bit concerned because I had never left home longer than a day or two. But after days of persistent bugging, they reluctantly agreed to send me. That July, I was shipped off to a Roaring Run Boy Scout camp located in Boswell, PA, only about 2 hours from my home. Coincidentally, it was still a summer camp, only an under entirely different name and affiliation. As we drove up to the beaten gravel path, I remember looking at awe at the endless rows of trees and the rustic cabins on either side of the road. We came out to a wide clearing with all the main buildings of the camp, and I noticed my troop leader in the distance, among a handful of other troop leaders organizing their scouts. After my parents spoke briefly with my scoutmaster, various specifics of camp, my mother gave me a kiss on the cheek, and then they were off. I could hardly contain my excitement for the week. We paired up with several troops from the neighboring towns because only a small amount of us showed up from each troop. We all placed our belongings in the cabin. Blue Ridge, one of the cabins I saw as I drove into the camp. Afterwards, we returned back to the main field and slowly got to know each other's names by playing various games. I quickly got to know just about all of them, but one in particular stood out to me. He was small, a lot smaller than the rest of us had been. He had frail limbs and messy blonde hair, and the buttons on his shirt were not evenly buttoned. He hadn't said a word since he got there, and I noticed a few of the scouts from his troop were pushing him around a bit and picking on him during the games. For the sake of anonymity, he'll be known as Michael, taking the game at hand very seriously. I soon disregarded this bullying and continued on. I did notice by the time dinner rolled by, several scouts from the other troops started picking on him as well. That night, all the scouts on camp gathered by the bonfire, located just past the main field and the outdoor auditorium of sorts. After reciting our honor code, the head counselor stepped forward and informed us about all the great activities ahead of us. There was swimming, canoeing, rifle, bow, shooting, scavenger hunts, hikes, competitions, and nights under the stars all still waiting for us, and I was ecstatic. After a speech on our core responsibilities as Boy Scouts to the environment and community, we were dismissed to our cabins for the night. A 10-minute walk from the main field, our scoutmasters had forgotten something back at the main camp. so they had left to go retrieve it. Alone, nearly all the scouts began picking on Michael. It all started rather innocent, but it grew a lot worse once another scout found a stuffed animal tucked under the blankets of Michael's bunk. It was a sickly-looking creature, obviously enduring during my years of abuse and quite frail. They had started throwing the bear back and forth, and Michael had no choice but to stand and watch. The riot of the cabin began to spread, and it came to a point where the raid leaders of the bullying criticized a few of us who weren't even picking on him. This is my first Boy Scout trip ever, I thought to myself. I wanted to be one of the cool kids, I asked myself. What if I'm the next they start to bully? At that ignorant age, I somehow thought my life would be over if these 2 weeks turned sour. My cowardice got the best of me, and I hit a turning point. At the start of the series of events that would soon devastate me for years to follow, I went over to Michael's bunk and grabbed the bear from another scout, holding it over Michael's head. With a strong pull, I ripped its head clean off, and the entire cabin boomed with roars as cotton remained from the now decapitated bear. The look on Michael's face turned from a frustrated to a depressing frown. That damn look on his face is still burned into my memory. For a brief moment, I felt a wave of extreme guilt. I had been raised better. I knew my mom would be disappointed if she knew. However, I quickly forgot about it as the entire cabin continued their outburst of laughter and praised me with comments. I was in. Just as the scoutmasters returned, one of them shouted, "What on earth is going on here?" We all grew silent, expecting to pay the price for destroying the bear. Michael showed a little emotion. He gathered the cotton as he could from the floor and retreated to his bunk without saying a word. We expected him to tell on us, but all he did was pull the covers on top of him and lay silently. We thought we had just lucked out. God, I wish Michael had spoken up and got us all in trouble right then and there. My 15 minutes of fame had just gotten to my head, and I longed to be the praised one. It was odd. I didn't like Michael. Not yet. I resorted to calling him names and pushing him around just for the shallow acceptance of my peers. As I write about this now, a great deal of guilt and shame is returning. If only I had known what my actions would lead to. A day passes, it's now the third day. I'm unsure if this is still my customary for Boy Scouts, but back then, we all had a few pieces of equipment to look after, particularly our mess tins, which were used for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. On the third afternoon of camp just before lunch, I had the perfect joke in mind. I talked with the other kids in my cabin, and I convinced them all to leave their mess tins on their bunks until we can force Michael to run back and retrieve them. Though pretty innocent compared to other things Michael put up with that week, my cabin mates thought it was brilliant. This is where it all began. We all piled into the chow hall and found our seats. Michael was the last to walk in and took a seat at the end of the table with its head down, a mess with tin in hand. I spoke up, "Hey Michael, we all kind of forgot our mess tins in the cabin. Think you could get them all for us, pal?" A few of the guys chuckled. Michael didn't move. I spoke up, "Michael, it'd be a real shame if you didn't listen to us. Now go get our mess tins." Reluctantly, Michael got up and walked out the door. "I can't believe you got him to do that," one kid said. "What a puss," another said. "You're the man," the kid to my right said to me. We all got a pretty great hoot about it. 10 minutes passed. "What the heck is taking him so long? I'm hungry," I said. "He's probably fumbling with our mess tins," one said. "That pansy better get his ass back here," another said. 30 minutes pass. No Michael. He probably just got lost, I thought to myself. An hour passes. We all figured he defied us to stay in the cabin with empty stomachs. We were furious and planned to deal all hell when we found him. We arrived back at the cabin, no Michael, but our mess tins were missing from our beds. When the scoutmasters noticed Michael's absence, he had all of us come down to see them if he was somewhere back in the main camp. They left us on the main field while they searched. 30 more minutes had passed and it still hadn't hit any of us that anything bad could have happened. "He probably had to take a shit," one kid said. We all laughed, mainly at the profanity. Our scoutmasters seemed to have gone forever, so we started playing games in the woods. We had just finished our third game of tag when we heard something coming from the road. 2 police cruisers came into light and drove past us towards the main building. I think we all had an idea that there was something wrong, but looked for another explanation. You think this is about Michael? One said. No way, there's probably just a bear or something. Another said. Logical enough for us at 10 years old. It was just about 6 hours past lunch, and we had nothing to do but lay in the grassy clearing. Just before we could hear a sound coming from the road, only much louder. An influx of cars began coming up the mountain. Our parents? Yes, but their cars are also accompanied by police cars, mixed between them. The more I had ever seen one at a time, I recognized Johnstown Police Department. On the sides of a few of them, odd, they were from a small city at least 30 minutes away. One by one, they were intercepted by our parents and taken aback between the beaten gravel road. I was the one of the last, but just as the others saw, I saw my parents come up the road. Once my father saw me, he stopped the car and they both got out. Come on, sweetie, camp's over, my mother said. I responded, but it's only been 3 days, why? She paused almost as she was thinking to say, a little boy went missing, so the police are going to help find him. They just want to look for him while the other campers getting in the way. I'm sure that he just wandered into the forest. Made sense, I thought. What was most peculiar is that the moment I didn't even have made the connection to Michael. Must have been some other kid, I thought. No way had anything to do with this. I was pretty devastated that my week at camp had ended so abruptly, but I got in the car and went home nonetheless. 2 weeks had passed and I finally made the connection that Michael may have been the one who went missing. Funny how a young kid could easily ignore the most logical explanation. I noticed my parents had been acting a bit differently. They wouldn't allow me to attend the summer Boy Scout camp meetings anymore, and I was almost positive I heard my mom say that she would never let her son leave the house again over the phone. Had I done something wrong? Little by little, I began to make ends meet, and thoughts of Michael came into my head. I grew the intense curiosity only young kids are capable of having, and approached my father several times. Anytime I asked about the missing boy, he would look away and respond with a question with, I'm not sure, I haven't been checking the newspaper much lately. I knew he was lying. Every day before work, my father was accustomed to lounging on the couch to catch up on the sports and local news. It was clear that there was something he was hiding from me. I knew he had a bit of a habit of leaving old newspapers on his nightstand, so I went to investigate while he was at work. Just as I hoped, the newspapers stretching back 3 weeks lay before me. Starting from the oldest, I looked through in hopes of finding my answer. Aha, dated the day after camp was canceled. I noticed the headline. The search begins for Jennerstown Boy Scout camp. Michael's picture covered the front page. That must have been it. I skipped a week ahead and found another. Search party for missing Boy Scout called off. Within the article, it described a mysterious disappearance of Michael, who was last seen in the Chow Hall with his fellow scouts. I skipped several more days, but my stomach turned sour. Bodily remains of a child found at a local Boy Scout camp. Headline made me sick, but I continued reading. Below was what I remembered from the article. Once the search party was called off, Roaring Run was reopened, and campers returned. But it was very hot and humid that week, and those that stayed in Blue Ridge accompanied foul stench in the cabin had been in the first few days. As the second week came by, the stench grew unbearable, and the camp maintenance went into the cabin looking to find the source. The first thing they noticed was an abnormally loose floorboard near the center of the cabin. When they uncovered the board, they made a shocking discovery. Underneath was a mangled, decomposing body of a young boy, practically buried in several mess tins, our mess tins. The crevice he was jammed in was filled with blood, and his face was begone almost beyond recognition. The only piece of evidence they were able to find was a bloody, decapitated teddy bear in his hands, with a note reading, "Special." There was no witnesses or suspects. I hadn't fully realized that the course of my actions have accomplished, but as I grew older, the guilt grew stronger, and I at once nearly resorted to death. My actions killed an innocent human being. If I hadn't sent Michael back to get our damn mess tins, he probably would still be here. Fortunately, after many years, I am finally able to forgive myself of the actions long ago. Roaring Run was closed permanently, and the land was purchased by a logging company who used it for about 10 years, and the land laid untouched until 1998, when it was purchased by a Marine Corps general who turned it into a youth mentor camp. Every once in a while, when I visit my parents, I take a trip to the local library and view the same archive headlines I discovered all those years ago. It's weird what once caused me such pain and guilt for the greater part of my life has left me. Then sanitized, though sometimes I can still see his desperate face that night I ruined his bear. If only I know what was in store for the summer of 1978. Still, what does special mean?
What's up, my pretties? It's the Lion Queen here. I want to appreciate you all for tuning into this video, and I do appreciate you guys supporting my video by giving this video likes and stuff. If you really enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe if you're new, ring the bell for notifications to when I upload so that way you guys will get updated for whenever I upload. If you want to follow me on Twitter or DeviantArt, feel free to leave a follow on those if you are interested in following me on those socials. If you want to support my backup channel, known as Miss Dark Shigo, feel free to subscribe to it, as a link to that will also be in the About page section. And with that being said, and that being the case, thank you so much for watching, my pretties, and as always, stay pretty.